to see you again all. I hope you all will be fine. And for all of you, I pray that God fulfill your all dreams and give you lots of happiness. And my dear friends, every time I try my best to give you all latest news. Therefore, you are requested to sit tight on your seats and enjoy the latest news updates. Thanks, take care.
Former United Nations expert Majeed Al-Nashi proposed on Saturday several points to get rid of the dollar's dominance over the Iraqi economy, stressing the necessity of not relying on oil as a primary source. Al-Nashi said in a press statement received by Earth News, the Parliamentary Finance Committee called on the government to take quick measures to get rid of the dominance of the dollar by diversifying our cash reserves from foreign currencies. I also proposed obliging the Ministry of Oil to sell Iraqi oil in other foreign currencies. He added, all economic and energy experts in Iraq are aware of the economic and monetary reality of Iraq, especially since all the Iraqi money that Iraq obtains is the proceeds of Iraq's sale of oil, which constitutes more than 90% of Iraq's budget, and this money has been mortgaged to the U.S. Federal Reserve Bank in New York since 2003. According to the Security Council resolution during Bremer's rule for Iraq, Resolution Number 1483 issued in 2003, which required the establishment of the Development Fund for Iraq (DFI), according to which all Iraqi funds are deposited in the U.S. Federal Reserve Bank, and withdrawals are made from this fund according to conditions that Iraq agreed to at the time, in order to protect Iraqi funds from claims and consequences. Finance is arranged according to the previous system. He pointed out that, the recent initiatives that were launched, such as the Live on Dignity initiative and heading to international courts to settle cases related to Iraq's right, in preparation for freedom from dependence on the United States to protect Iraqi oil funds from any seizure decisions that may affect them due to the actions of the previous regime and others, are considered a good thing in liberating Iraqi money from the dominance of the dollar. He stated, in order to implement what was stated in the Finance Committee's statement, the matter requires practical solutions, including accelerating the withdrawal of Iraqi funds from the American bank and ending this dominance, and agreeing with companies and countries importing Iraqi oil on a new payment system determined by SOMO in accordance with the requirements of the Iraqi economy and in coordination with Central Bank of Iraq. He continued, economic and banking discussions should also begin with China and other countries, including opening accounts for Iraqi funds resulting from the export of oil in different currencies, and conducting most import operations, especially from China, in Chinese yuan, as well as using currencies of other countries such as the Emirati dirham, the Saudi riyal, and the Indian rupee in transactions, whether by selling oil or importing goods. He pointed out the necessity of organizing and modernizing the Iraqi banking system to keep pace with developments in the field of completing transactions, using modern technology, and enhancing the strength of the Iraqi dinar by activating and supporting the private sector, not relying on oil as the primary source of foreign currency, and encouraging the export of Iraqi products. And Mazar Saleh, the financial advisor to the Prime Minister, confirmed that Iraq is in the best condition in its financial history, through the reserves it possesses of gold and foreign currencies, indicating that the growth of the gross domestic product is continuous and stable. Saleh said, to the official agency, followed by the 964 network, that Iraq's oil revenues will remain the main source of growth in the country's foreign currency reserves, and those reserves will rise with the rise in the cycle of oil assets, all of which lead to an increase in indicators of the efficiency of foreign currency reserves, whether commercial efficiency. Covering the mentioned reserves for the number of import months for Iraq, which currently exceeds 15 months compared to the global standard of 3 months, or in covering the money supply, or by the fact that these foreign reserves in terms of percentage have the ability to cover the external debt services payable. He added, the country's oil revenues still provide 98% of the assets of the investment portfolio for the country's foreign currency reserves, whether in monetary gold or various foreign currencies. All indicators of the efficiency of foreign reserves mentioned above indicate that Iraq today is in the best condition in its financial history. These reserves flourish and grow with the index of the growth rate in the current account surplus of the balance of payments to the country's gross domestic product, which was estimated for the year 2023 at approximately positive 9% and is estimated for the year 2024 at the same similar rate, according to data published by international credit evaluation institutions for Iraq. He pointed out that there are standard investment mechanisms and guides approved globally by the Monetary Authority in managing the country's foreign currency reserves, as their tools and methods are evaluated in consultation with multilateral international financial organizations, including the International Monetary Fund and the World Bank, on a periodic basis to ensure optimal management of reserves, both in providing appropriate returns, sufficient liquidity and low risks at the same time. He continued, it takes into account avoiding all forms of risks, whether the risks of currency exchange rate fluctuations, interest, or liquidity risks, as well as the legal risks in managing those reserves, which are the basis of the country's foreign investment portfolio, and today they represent something similar to the Iraqi dinar exchange rate stabilization fund that it defends. The country's monetary policy represents assets corresponding to the national currency issued as liabilities and adequate coverage of the dinar to ensure its stability, in addition to the role of reserves in financing foreign trade for the private sector. At the conclusion of his speech, he stressed that, as the cycle of oil assets increases, the country's foreign assets increase and inevitably rise in the country's investment portfolio. And Prime Minister Mohammed Shia al-Sudani confirmed today, Saturday, that the government has provided sovereign guarantees for projects implemented by the private sector. A statement from al-Sudani's office received by the Al-Maluma agency stated that, the Prime Minister received a number of investors and businessmen who own medium-sized projects. The statement added, the meeting witnessed a review of the most important projects being implemented, the obstacles and problems facing employers, and ways to address them. During the meeting, the Prime Minister stressed the government's orientation towards supporting the private sector and supporting small companies, noting activation measures taken for the first time, including the sovereign guarantees provided by the government for projects implemented by the private sector. Al-Sudani stated, these steps come from the government's vision of the state's work that it cannot be managed only through government institutions and the public sector, relying on the budget and oil prices, and on government jobs. Rather, there must be a societal understanding of the private sector, and experience with projects. Small and developing. According to the statement, the Prime Minister touched on the challenges facing economic and financial reform in several files, as the implementation of the electronic payment system faces many obstacles, and there are also attempts to circumvent tax reform, company registration and customs procedures, and all of them are being addressed, stressing that the government also continues to its measures to reform the banking sector. The statement indicated that the Prime Minister talked about contracts for new residential city projects, explaining that they aim to solve the housing crisis and revitalize industry at the same time, as the construction sector serves this trend, which increases local production capacity in these industries. Thanks, take care.